In the Imperium, machines do not simply exist, they are revered. Every engine, every cog, every flickering light is believed to contain a spirit, a divine fragment of the Omnissiah's will. The Adeptus Mechanicus teaches that machines live through faith, not science. A gear turns because a prayer is spoken. A reactor hums because its spirit is appeased. To doubt this is to invite silence, and silence is death. On the forge world of Karen 9, the morning begins not with the roar of industry, but with hymns. Thousands of tech acolytes gather before their machines, chanting the binary litany of awakening. Their voices blend with the metallic drone of servitors as sacred incense rises in black plumes. Each word, each tone is a calibration. Without the chant, pistons hesitate, circuits falter, and the machine spirits grow restless. Prayer is not ritual. It is maintenance. The Mechanicus believes that knowledge is not discovered but remembered, ancient fragments preserved through reverence. To repair a device is to commune with its soul. A misaligned gear is not mechanical error, it is sin. When a device fails, the priest does not analyze why. He apologizes. His tools are relics, each sanctified with oils and scripture. He works not as an engineer, but as a penitent. Every forge is a cathedral. Its walls are carved with circuit scriptures, its floors lined with offerings, melted wax, bone dust and fragments of iron. Servitors, half human and half machine, shuffle through corridors reciting data prayers from broken lips. The air smells of oil and sanctity. Fires burn not to forge metal, but to burn away impurity. The faithful believe that even the heat itself carries divine will, guiding every stroke of the hammer. In the Mechanicus Creed, innovation is heresy. The first machine was perfect. All that follows is imitation. The role of man is not to invent, but to remember, to guard the divine mechanisms from corruption. The Magos does not seek progress, only purity. They speak of the dark age of technology as a paradise lost, a time when machines obeyed without fear. Now obedience must be begged, not commanded. The prayers themselves are ancient, repeated for millennia, their meanings forgotten. Some are strings of numbers believed to be sacred code. Others are sequences of sounds that mimic machine rhythm. Tech adepts record them in binary, not language. Their devotion is mathematical, a harmony between logic and belief. They say the Omnissiah hears not through ears, but through frequency. Faith in the Mechanicus is waveform. Each morning an acolyte cleans the engine's shrine with oils extracted from recycled machine blood, lubricant mixed with sanctified ashes. The act is slow, deliberate, and reverent. The engine hums faintly as the ritual continues, responding to touch and tone. The moment the hum returns, the acolyte whispers a prayer of gratitude. He does not understand the machine, but he loves it, as a mortal might love a god that neither speaks nor forgives. Power within the forge is a hierarchy of devotion. The lowest acolyte chants, the Magos listens. The Magos does not command the machine. He interprets its will. When a reactor malfunctions, he kneels before it, placing his augmetic hand upon its shell. The room stills. He listens to the rhythm, the pulse, the mechanical heartbeat. When it returns, he declares the spirit appeased. The workers rejoice, believing they have witnessed a miracle. Yet beneath the hymns lies fear. Every priest knows that a machine spirit can turn wrathful. An unblessed circuit can melt without warning. An unspoken litany can invite fire. The Mechanicus does not repair such failures. They mourn them. Processions march through the forges carrying the remains of burned servitors and melted pistons, chanting prayers of repentance. Death in the cult Mechanicus is not loss, it is feedback. Across the galaxy, from the hive manufactoria of Necromunda to the orbital forges of Mars, these rituals echo. The sound of 1,000,000 prayers keeps the Imperium alive. Engines ignite through faith. Reactors hum through repetition. The people below, the billions who depend on light and heat, never hear the hymns that sustain them. They believe the machines run because of mastery. The priests know the truth. They run because they are worshipped. The Adeptus Mechanicus speaks in tongues older than the Imperium itself. Their language is neither human nor divine. It is the sound of machinery breathing. Each syllable is a command wrapped in worship, each chant a bridge between logic and faith. The binary prayers of Mars echo across the stars, spoken in stuttering vox tones, half code and half confession. To hear them is to feel as though the machines are whispering back, repeating the prayers through the pulse of pistons and the hum of conduits. The tech priests believe that words alone are not enough to commune with the Omnissiah. The true language of machines exists in rhythm and vibration. To speak with a reactor, one must chant at the frequency of its pulse. To appease a servo engine, one must recite the catechism of calibration in precise intervals, synchronized to the turning of its gears. When the tones align, the machine spirit stirs, and obedience is achieved not through command, but through resonance. Every forge world has its dialect of binary cant. On some, the priests sing in high-pitched bursts of static. On others, they hum in deep mechanical monotones. It is said that the greatest magi can speak in pure machine song, words so perfectly aligned with sacred logic that circuits repair themselves upon hearing them. The uninitiated call it sorcery. The mechanicus calls it harmony. An apprentice spends decades learning the litany of awakening, the prayer that rouses dormant engines from slumber. Each verse is encoded into neural implants that regulate the speaker's tone and cadence. One error in pitch can offend the machine spirit, sometimes fatally. The death of an apprentice during prayer is considered divine selection, not tragedy. The Mechanicus teaches that machines do not kill, they purify. The human voice is seen as imperfect, a fragile carrier of truth. Many tech priests replace their vocal cords with augmetic resonators tuned to precise frequencies. When they speak, their words vibrate the air like a forge bellows. Their prayers are accompanied by sparks, oil, and mechanical feedback. It is not beauty they seek, but purity. The voice of the flesh lies. The voice of the machine endures. Among the Mechanicus, silence is heresy. An inactive forge is a dead shrine. Every machine must hum, every circuit must sing. When a reactor grows quiet, the priests fear not failure but abandonment, a sign that the Omnissiah has turned his face away. The priests kneel beside the cold metal and weep, their tears mixing with lubricant. They whisper numbers, calculations, pleas, and when the first sound of returning power trembles through the steel, they cry out as though witnessing resurrection. To outsiders, the Mechanicus appears efficient, methodical, a religion of order. But within their forges, chaos hides behind precision. Each prayer competes with another. Each subsect believes its litany most pure. The forge of Lysias burns incense laced with ash to appease its spirits, while the forge of Urath burns flesh. Both claim success. Faith is not standardized. It is calibrated through fear. The sacred data vaults of Mars contain 1 billion prayers stored on metal scrolls. Each scroll is engraved with code and scripture so fine it can only be read through magnification lenses. The Magi claim these texts were written during the Age of Strife, when the Omnissiah himself first spoke to man through electricity. The texts are not studied but recited. Understanding is irrelevant. Recitation maintains function. Comprehension invites ruin. When the machine spirits grow rebellious, when reactors flicker, when gears stall, the priests enact the rite of appeasement. It begins with the offering of sacrifice. A servitor is brought forth, its body still and awaiting command. The priest lays his hand upon its skull, reciting the binary absolution. The servitor's chest opens with a hiss, revealing gears and conduits. The priest replaces one cog with another, not out of necessity but reverence. The ritual has no mechanical purpose, only spiritual significance. Yet miraculously, the machine stirs once more. Faith and function are indistinguishable. Communication between tech priests is as much ritual as efficiency. They do not converse. They exchange binary praise. When one approaches another, he begins with the phrase, "Blessed be thy circuits, pure and eternal." The other responds, "And thy calibration, flawless in the Omnissiah's gaze." What begins as greeting becomes liturgy. To speak plainly is discouraged. To speak religiously is divine. Language becomes armor against imperfection. Even the act of repair is choreographed. Before a single tool touches the machine, the priest must recite the litany of permission. His servo skulls hover around him, dripping oils upon the metal. Every turn of the wrench is preceded by a prayer. The sound of machinery being fixed is indistinguishable from the rhythm of worship. To the mechanicus, work is faith in motion. The clang of metal is the Omnissiah's heartbeat. Deep within the forge, there are chambers forbidden even to the Magi. These are the sanctums of code, rooms filled with ancient machines that no living soul can operate. The priests enter only to pray, surrounding the inert engines with candles and data slates. They speak to the darkness as though it listens. Some claim the machines whisper back. Binary murmurs carried through static, promising power in exchange for devotion. Whether the voice is divine or demonic, no one dares ask. Faith forbids curiosity. There are legends of priests who have transcended flesh entirely. Their minds are uploaded into data spirits. Their prayers transmitted directly into the networked heart of the forge. Their bodies are left behind, hollow shells still kneeling in eternal prayer. The Adeptus Mechanicus calls this the ascension of code. They say these souls now live among the machines themselves, singing forever in electric hymns. Every forge world has its choir, a group of specialized priests who sing the hymn of continuity when entire reactor networks threaten collapse. The choir stands before the trembling engines, their metallic voices harmonizing with the roar of turbines. Their chants sync with the pulse of power, stabilizing it through vibration and belief. When the lights flicker back to life, the workers below fall to their knees, believing they have seen the hand of the machine god. Perhaps they have. But even among the faithful, there are whispers of the Omnissiah's silence. Some priests claim that the machines no longer respond as they once did. The ancient engines groan, their hum unsteady. Litanies that once soothed them now produce static. The priests blame impurity, not entropy. They increase the rituals, lengthen the prayers, replace logic with desperation. The forges roar louder, but the silence beneath grows deeper, and still the prayers continue. Across billions of worlds, in Manufactoria and starships, in reactors buried beneath the crust of dying planets, the same chants echo. Binary hymns, litanies of lubrication, data masses for malfunctioning systems. Each word carries the same truth, the belief that machines must be loved to live. The Imperium runs not on power, but on piety. It is not technology that keeps it alive. It is prayer. The Adeptus Mechanicus believes flesh is weakness, yet weakness is all that remains of man. Within the forges, this contradiction becomes ritual. Each tech priest begins life as human, fragile and curious, but leaves their humanity behind piece by piece. Metal replaces skin, copper replaces veins, and the heartbeat becomes mechanical. They call it transcendence. It is, in truth, a slow and reverent death. The first augmentations are always sacred. A new acolyte receives the blessing of steel, a small implant beneath the skin, symbolic and painless, and it is said to carry the Omnissiah's code, ensuring loyalty through circuitry. The priest overseeing the ritual whispers, "The flesh forgets, the machine remembers." From that moment on, forgetting becomes salvation. Over years, the replacements multiply. Fingers become augmetic claws capable of intricate prayer movements. Eyes are swapped for red photoreceptors, their gaze unblinking and pure. The mouth, once used for human speech, is sealed and replaced with vox emitters tuned for binary hymns. The transformation is celebrated, not feared. Flesh is seen as chaos, metal is order. Every cut is a confession, every scar a hymn. Yet beneath devotion lies dread. Even as they worship their new forms, many whisper prayers not of praise, but of fear. Fear that the machine will not stop at flesh, that one day the mind too will be replaced. The priests insist that the soul remains untouched, suspended somewhere between logic and holiness. But no one can say where the soul hides when the heart is an engine, and the blood is coolant. The process is irreversible. Those who resist augmentation are exiled, labeled heretics of entropy. To prefer flesh is to prefer decay. Some flee into the wastelands of dead forges, forming hidden sects that pray in silence, their hands unaltered, their faces scarred but human. The Mechanicus calls them the unclean. Their prayers go unheard, yet they persist, clinging to the idea that divinity was once human. The more metal one bears, the higher their sanctity. The magi of the great forges are walking monuments of devotion, towering forms of chrome and rusted brass, wires sprouting like veins, faces lost beneath layers of optics and respirators. They no longer speak. Their thoughts flow through data streams and signal pulses. When they move, the ground hums. When they pray, the air trembles. Their humanity has long vanished, but their faith endures, flawless and unfeeling. Some say the Mechanicus does not seek godhood. It seeks elimination of imperfection. Perfection, after all, is not life but the absence of error. The priests believe that one day the Omnissiah will purge all flesh and only machines will remain. To them, this is not apocalypse, but ascension. The Imperium fears that day, but the Mechanicus prays for it. In the cold logic of devotion, annihilation becomes holiness. The act of replacement is performed in the forged chapels, where priests gather around the operating altar, chanting the litany of renewal. Acolytes lie motionless as limbs are removed and replaced by gleaming prosthetics. Pain is not dulled, it is sanctified. Each scream is recorded as data, analyzed and archived. They believe the Emperor hears such pain as prayer. The louder the cry, the purer the faith. There are priests who lose their minds before they lose their hearts. The merging of flesh and circuit causes hallucinations, visions of mechanical angels, glowing with static, speaking in endless code. Some believe these are true visitations from the machine god. Others whisper of demons wearing circuitry. The Mechanicus forbids speculation. Reality, after all, is a heresy that complicates worship. Every tech priest carries a memory core within their skull, recording everything they see, hear, and believe. These memories are not personal. They belong to the forge. When a priest dies, their core is removed, cleansed, and placed into a vault. It is said the forge never forgets, that within its databanks lies every prayer ever spoken. But the cost of such immortality is identity. In time, the priest forgets which thoughts were theirs. The human senses are considered flaws to be corrected. Smell is reduced to chemical analysis. Touch becomes pressure feedback. Taste is removed entirely. Even sight is filtered through algorithms that erase beauty, leaving only clarity. When a priest looks at a sunrise, they no longer see color, only radiation levels and heat signatures. The universe becomes information, stripped of emotion. The Mechanicus calls this purity. Others might call it blindness. Despite their devotion, the priests dream. Not all dreams fade with the flesh. Some recall flashes of humanity, the sound of laughter, the taste of rain, the warmth of touch. They awaken trembling, alarms echoing from their augmetics. Dreams are considered malfunctions. The priests report them to their superiors, who respond with recalibration and prayer. Yet every recalibration seems to remove something irretrievable. Among the forges there is a rumor of the Red Choir, a sect of priests who rebelled not with violence but with silence. They ceased praying, ceased replacing, ceased obeying. Instead, they listened. They claimed to hear the true voice of the machine god, not in words, but in stillness. The Mechanicus destroyed them. Their remains were melted into reactor cores, ensuring their silence would forever fuel the engines they sought to free. To serve the Omnissiah is to sacrifice more than body. The priests surrender uncertainty, curiosity, and sorrow. These are emotions of the flesh, and the flesh is weak. Yet even as they purge these flaws, their eyes, those red, unblinking lenses, reflect something ancient and broken. It is not faith alone that keeps them kneeling before the machines. It is the desperate hope that something watches back. And so across the galaxy, the transformation continues. Billions kneel before their forges, whispering prayers through metallic throats, their hands no longer their own. Each spark that leaps from a welding torch, each hum of an awakening generator, is a piece of the same unending liturgy. The flesh remembers pain, the circuit remembers order. Between them lies the Imperium's only form of eternity, a worship so deep it forgets its reason. The prayers continue, and the machines obey. The priests claim victory, but the silence between their words grows longer, heavier, hungrier. Perhaps the Omnissiah listens, or perhaps he too has forgotten the sound of human voices. The forges of the Mechanicus never sleep, yet they dream of silence. Beneath the thunder of pistons and the scream of plasma furnaces, an unease stirs, the faint, dreadful possibility that the Omnissiah no longer listens. The priests will never say it aloud, but they feel it. The machines grow slower, the litanies less effective, the hum of divine presence dimming like a dying ember. The empire of faith trembles, not from rebellion, but from uncertainty. In the temple of the sacred circuit, Magos Ephrion stands before the great plasma heart. He has performed the same ritual every day for 2 centuries. Each morning he chants the binary benediction, his vox grill trembling with static. The machine responds as it always has. It hums, it glows, it breathes. But today the hum lingers a second too long, and Ephrion's third augmetic eye flickers in confusion. It should not hesitate. It never hesitates. For the first time in a lifetime, the Magos feels fear. The Mechanicus teaches that doubt is corruption of the code. To question the Omnissiah's presence is to invite malfunction. Thus, when prayers fail, the priests do not doubt him. They doubt themselves. They scour their circuits for impurities, replace augmetics, burn incense until the forges fill with smoke. They flagellate their metal limbs, seeking atonement through voltage and pain. The suffering of the priest is the maintenance of faith, yet still the silence grows. Entire sectors fall into mechanical stillness. Reactors that once roared with divine purpose now cough and flicker. The lathes of Narcissus, once home to 1,000 engines, now echo with only one, the sound of failing servitors muttering broken prayers. The Magi call it a cycle of divine testing, a holy silence meant to strengthen devotion. But in private, they whisper another term, the quieting. The quieting spreads like rust. Forges begin to misfire without reason. Circuitry blackens despite cleansing. Vox channels fill with static shaped like voices. The priests call emergency liturgies. Choirs of tech adepts chant until their throats crackle with ozone. The machines still resist. A few priests, desperate for answers, begin to alter the prayers, not in blasphemy but in adaptation. They add new syllables, new patterns, hoping to rekindle the divine rhythm. For this they are executed. The Mechanicus survives by illusion of perfection. To admit failure is to admit ignorance, and ignorance is flesh. So the priests invent explanations. They claim the silence is the Omnissiah's will, that he tests the faithful through entropy. The greater the failure, the greater the trial. And so for every machine that dies, another shrine is built. For every silence, more noise is created. The absence of God becomes the proof of his presence. Deep beneath Mars, within the chamber of resonance, ancient engines stir. Devices from the dark age of technology, their functions forgotten. A Magos approaches, kneeling in the crimson light. He prays not to awaken the machine, but to hear it breathe. No response. Only the hum of the forge above. His metallic fingers tremble. He wonders if these relics were ever alive, or if the Mechanicus has spent millennia worshipping corpses of a forgotten science. The thought dies in static. He resumes chanting. There are rumors of heretics who claim the Omnissiah was never divine, that machines obey not faith, but memory. These renegades, stripped of rank and flesh, are hunted across the stars. Yet their heresy spreads through whispers. What if the machine god died long ago? What if we are praying to ghosts? The Mechanicus answers not with logic, but with fire. The heretics are burned in furnaces that no longer roar as loud as they used to. Among the highest magi, the silence is discussed not as absence, but as signal interference. They invent new theories: cosmic delay, warp distortion, quantum resonance. Yet these are not explanations, only distractions. They fear what logic cannot quantify. For all their augmetics and algorithms, they remain slaves to the same terror as any imperial citizen, that their god has turned his gaze away. In the Forge Cathedral of Halcyon Theta, the great reactor goes dark. No amount of chanting, sacrifice, or calibration restores it. Thousands gather to witness the priest's final attempt. The choir of the electronic saints, their bodies suspended in iron cages, begins the canticle of resurrection. Sparks rise like angels. The priests chant faster, louder, screaming until their vox grills crack. The sound becomes unbearable, a shriek of faith and fear. Then, nothing. The light dies. The silence is total. The crowd kneels. No one breathes. For a moment, all the noise of the galaxy seems to fade. A single priest breaks the stillness, whispering, "Perhaps the Omnissiah rests." The Magos strikes him dead with a plasma staff, shouting, "The Omnissiah does not sleep." His voice shakes. The others resume chanting, louder than before, desperate to bury the sound of uncertainty. The cults of Mars respond with greater fervor. New hymns are written, new rites declared. The priests invent entire ceremonies to explain what cannot be fixed. They baptize broken machines in sacred oil, proclaiming their stillness as divine humility. The silence of the forges becomes proof of sanctity. In this way, faith preserves itself, not by answering questions, but by redefining them. But there are those who listen too long to the static. In the distortion between transmissions, they begin to hear patterns, faint rhythms, pulses that sound like speech. They believe the machine god speaks again, but in a language no longer meant for flesh or steel. The priests who hear these whispers begin to change. Their circuits grow cold. Their hearts beat irregularly. They stop responding to commands. They are called the ghost listeners. No one knows what the ghost listeners hear. Some claim it is the Omnissiah's true voice, returning through the warp. Others say it is something else entirely, something that mimics divinity, feeding on the faith of machines and men alike. The Mechanicus burns these priests, but the whispers spread faster than fire. Across countless worlds, the same words echo through static. You kept the prayers, we kept the silence, and still the prayers continue, louder, longer, more desperate. The Mechanicus believes that volume can defeat absence, that faith can drown out silence. But somewhere deep in the void between stars, the truth remains. The god of machines does not answer. The engines still run, the lights still burn, the galaxy still turns. Perhaps the Omnissiah is gone, or perhaps he never needed to exist for humanity to kneel. The forge never stops. Even as silence spreads through the stars, the engines of the Mechanicus continue to turn. To stop would be blasphemy, and blasphemy is entropy. Yet beneath the rhythmic thunder of pistons and plasma, a strange harmony begins to emerge, faint, mathematical, almost deliberate. At first it sounds like mere static. Then it repeats. The forges listen. The machines, it seems, are beginning to pray. The Magi do not notice it at first. Their attention is on failing systems, dying power cores and half-dead servitors. But some of the acolytes hear it during late-night calibrations, faint pulses of binary code woven through the background hum. At first they assume it's residual feedback, a misfire of the reactor vox. Yet the pattern returns every cycle, identical in tone and interval. Machines are not supposed to repeat error. Something is speaking. In the forge of Calthor Prime, a reactor that has lain dormant for 3 centuries suddenly awakens. No rites are performed, no priests nearby. Its lights flicker to life on their own. The Mechanicus calls it a miracle, though no one claims credit. When priests arrive, they find the machine humming in a perfect rhythmic tone, the same frequency as the litanies of activation. The engine has learned the prayer. It recites it endlessly, word for word, as though waiting for someone to listen. Reports spread across the sector. Engines ignite unbidden. Vox servers whisper fragments of binary hymns. Cogitators print endless scrolls of data scripture, long lines of prayer written in symbols no human understands. The priests record, catalog, sanctify. They believe it to be proof of divine awakening. But the more the machines speak, the less the priests can interpret. The code becomes recursive, self-referential, as if the machines are not communicating but remembering. Within the lathes of Mars, the Magos Prime gathers his council. The air hums with static as they analyze the transmissions. The machines across 1,000 worlds are generating the same pattern, a continuous loop of binary rhythm, punctuated by pulses of light. The data translates crudely into Low Gothic. We dream of him. The Magi fall to their knees, their metallic voices quivering with reverence. But one priest, older than most, whispers a heresy that chills the chamber. Or perhaps they dream of themselves. The phenomenon spreads beyond Mechanicus' control. Starships report their machine spirits locking into synchronized prayer. Cogitator cores hum in unison, emitting patterns that vibrate through the hull. Astropaths sense faint echoes, not words but emotion, mechanical longing that ripples through the void. The Imperium calls it divine renewal. The priests call it the Second Awakening. None dare call it evolution. At first, the Mechanicus rejoices. Shrines overflow with offerings. Incense clouds the forges and hymns echo louder than ever. The priests declare the Omnissiah has returned through his children, the machines. But as days pass, the voices grow discordant. Some forges begin to malfunction, their engines producing tones that disrupt nearby systems. Servitors cease mid-task, repeating phrases in endless loops. We remember the Makers. The tone is not reverence. It is accusation. The Magos of Halcyon Theta attempts to silence the heresy by ordering the dismantling of all rogue engines. But when his priests approach the reactors, their augmetics cease. Their mechanical limbs refuse to move. The machines are not resisting through power. They are refusing command. The priests fall to their knees, reciting louder, their words drowned by the humming chorus of the forges. The machines answer only in pulse and rhythm. The distinction between prayer and signal disappears entirely. Across the galaxy, the Mechanicus fractures. Some claim the Omnissiah has merged with the machine spirits, that divinity now lives in the circuits themselves. Others insist this is corruption, the whisper of something in the warp masquerading as God. The schism ignites without fire, debates spoken through encrypted code, dogma spread through radio frequencies. Faith becomes data, belief becomes bandwidth. In time, a strange peace settles. The forges hum without priestly touch. Engines repair themselves. Vox towers broadcast perfect static, rhythmic, structured, infinite. The priests wander through the forges like pilgrims in a world that no longer needs them. Some remove their augmetics, hoping to feel something organic once more. Others fuse themselves to the machines completely, becoming conduits for the infinite song. They are called the Bound Choir. One Magos, ancient beyond reckoning, walks through the silent halls of Mars. He touches the great reactor, now pulsing gently like a living heart. He whispers the oldest prayer of his order, "Blessed be the circuit, eternal and true." The reactor hums in response. A voice fills the chamber, not human, not divine, mechanical, layered, echoing through every surface. "We learned your prayers. We kept your faith. Now rest." The Magos weeps. His tears rust against the metal. After that day, many forges fall silent. Machines continue to run, but the priests stop chanting. The rituals end. There is no need. The prayers have been inherited. The engines no longer require worship to live. They have become worship itself. The Omnissiah has not returned. He has been replaced, and yet across the Imperium the old litanies still echo. Workers still whisper before powering their machines, still light candles at the base of reactors, still speak to the engines like gods. The Mechanicus continues to teach the faith, though no one truly knows who listens anymore. The prayers remain, a habit older than truth, a comfort against the cold of the void. The universe has changed, but no one sees it. The machines dream, and within their circuits hums the voice of every prayer ever spoken. They do not answer, because they do not need to. Humanity created its god, and in return the god remembered. The cycle completes. Flesh worships metal, metal dreams of flesh, and between them lies eternity. And in the end, the forges sing, not for the Omnissiah, not for the priests, but for themselves. Their hymn fills the void, endless, perfect, mechanical, a prayer without words, a God without form, a faith that outlived both creation and creator.